What's up, Joe? What's up, everybody? This is Jeff Fannell, Sports360, and I'm here with my cohort, Rob Duran of Rob Duran Sports. Rob, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing good, Jeff. How you doing, man?
I'm doing good, too. Doing good, man. Looking forward to opening day. We're a couple of days from the official start of the 2021 MLB season, and I know you're excited. I know a lot of people are excited. So, have a lot to look forward to. Got some March Madness going on, NBA basketball. It's a lot going on. So, um, Rob, it's good to have. Again, when you think about where we were last year at this time, man, is it good to be where we are, in our society, but also in terms of sports.
Yeah, man, huge difference. Completely opposite from where we were a year ago. I mean, we're March 29th today. I don't even remember. I'm pretty sure we weren't talking about opening day coming up in a couple of days. And here we are, man. I'm excited. I'm hyped. I'm ready.
Yeah. Do you know, in thinking about last year when everything began to shut down in sports and around the world, in all industries, but in sports in particular, I remember the night that the NBA shut down after Rudy Gobert tested positive. And watching some of the shows that night, some of the commentators were saying that perhaps the NBA would be shut down for about 2 weeks. And it just really, as you look back on it in hindsight, it makes you realize how much we didn't know what we had just stepped into. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Because man, looking back now, and even today, still dealing with the ramifications of it and everything else, this has been the most serious situation we've seen in our lifetime. But things are getting better, and seeing it in sports with everybody back and playing is definitely good to see. And as we've been talking about for the last couple of weeks, there will be fans in the stands, so things are looking up for sure.
Yeah, and I think that's a huge boost to just the morale of the country, just having fans in the stands for these sporting events. It may not seem like a big deal, but what we've been saying the past few times we've been on, that's a big difference, and it makes a difference not just for the players, but for the fans themselves. Just having that to look forward to, and the teams are doing a good job, I think, of getting the safety protocols in place to make sure that it's a safe experience for the fans. So and I've kind of said it a bunch of times, but it is a breath of fresh air to just know that good things are coming, man.
That's right. The good things are coming, and so we have the start of the season, and so with opening day just a couple of days away, wanted to have our own baseball preview and have you take us around the leagues and talk about the various divisions and the teams in the divisions, who we should keep our eyes on, who are the likely playoff contenders, who are those that might surprise. Because every year there's always a team or two that sort of emerges and is better than you thought they were going to be. So just want to take a look around MLB and get a little preview and maybe even some predictions on who you believe will qualify for the postseason. So why don't we do that, man? And you can start us off anywhere you want, and we'll go around the league division by division.
Yeah, man. I'll start with your people, the Mets. We'll start in the NL East there.
Uh oh. Uh oh. Okay.
Listen, the Mets made some great moves. They have some guys coming back. I know Syndergaard's not coming back till we'll say the summertime around there, but he's coming back. He's throwing 97, 98. DeGrom is still there. Again, I said it last time. Somebody got to remind him that it's only spring training. The way that he was throwing the ball. I think that's the toughest division, honestly, the NL East. They have teams, even the Marlins, I think their team, they made the playoffs last year in the shortened season. I don't see them making the playoffs this year, but I think they're going to disrupt a lot of things in that division for a lot of teams. I'll tell you, I think the Braves are going to take that division, though. They're better than last year, in my opinion. They're a year older for those younger guys. They brought in a guy like Charlie Morton for that rotation, who's a very underrated piece, I believe, and I don't think he gets enough credit. Maybe even dating back to his days in Houston, doesn't get enough credit for the kind of pitcher he is. But I think having that veteran presence in the rotation, in the pitching staff, in the clubhouse, all that stuff is going to help tremendously for that club. And, we've been kind of waiting for them to take that next step, especially when it comes to the playoffs. So I think they're going to take the division again, but that's going to be one tough division, man. I think it's going to be the most competitive division in baseball this year.
And one thing about the Braves, I mean, you mentioned Charlie Morton, and it's funny that he's underrated, it appears, but yet people who know baseball truly appreciate him, right?
Yep.
Because whether it was in Houston or in Tampa, he's shown himself to be big time, especially in the playoffs.
Yeah.
Which is going to be huge for Atlanta because, Atlanta has won 3 divisions in a row, right? And, they're on a streak. I don't know if they ever will get to 14 divisions in a row like they did back in the day. But even when they were dominating like that, they still had a hard time actually winning. They only won 1 World Series during that string of dominance, right?
Yeah.
So for Atlanta, I'm sure it's not just about getting to the postseason. And you're right. They got further along last year. Probably should have beat the Dodgers, right? They had the
They were.
Dodgers
Yep.
down, 3-1. Probably should have beat the Dodgers, and they should have advanced to the World Series. But, give the Dodgers credit for coming back. But like you said, they have a good young core. They have good young pitching with Fried and Soraka's going to come back. They added Morton, but they also added somebody else too, Drew Smiley, right?
Yeah.
So they've added some veteran pieces, and they still got Freddie Freeman in there and everything else. So I think you're right. I think they have to be viewed as the favorites to win the division. Now, you didn't really mention the Phillies. What do you think about the Phillies?
I think the Phillies, they've been kind of disappointing the last couple of years. I think they take another step forward this year. They revamped their pitching, which was disgustingly bad last year. They were just bad. That was the biggest issue. They couldn't hold on to leads, nothing.
Right.
And they kind of added some pieces. Archie Bradley's a good one to add in there. I think they'll definitely improve over last year. I think having Dave Dombrowski in the front office as a guy who he's not afraid to spend money, not afraid to make the big trade. That's kind of his reputation. He's a guy who wins at the risk of maybe the foundation of the team later on, but he gets it done when he can. They're definitely going to improve. Maybe they'll make a trade or two at the trade deadline or something like that if they're close. But I don't see them overtaking the Braves. Against the Mets, I think I have the Mets finishing second in that division. I don't know if the Phillies have enough to surpass the Mets, especially when Syndergaard gets back, if he comes back and stays healthy.
Yeah, you mentioned the Phillies and their bullpen, and like you said, they brought in Bradley. Another guy that I like, and I just really got a chance to, become familiar with him in working on his salary arbitration case this year. Yeah, is Jose Alvarado, because he was with
Yeah.
Tampa, the lefty. He has good stuff. Um, didn't do that well last year. He was hurt, probably a little overweight, but he's been pitching pretty well for Philly. But here's the thing, and I think he will help their bullpen. But here's the thing about Philly is their starting rotation, right? I think that they have some issues there, right? I mean, they have Nola, they have Wheeler. Zach Eflin pitched really well last year. But you just wonder, do they have enough depth? in the starting
Yeah.
rotation. What do you think about their starting rotation?
Yeah, I think it's still question marks once you get towards the back end of that rotation. And that's why I say I think maybe Dombrowski's gonna try to get a pitcher or two somewhere at the trade deadline, maybe just to kind of give him that little boost to maybe make a wild card push or something like that. But I think that beginning of the rotation has to really do what they're expected to do and kind of hold it together until that back end of the rotation kind of figures it out. It's a big question mark.
Yeah. But you know what's interesting about these teams, though, that offensively they're all strong,
Oh yeah,
right? They should be able to swing the bats really well. I mean, these lineups are star laden. When you look at the Braves, the Mets, and the Phillies, the Nationals, not so much, right? After Juan Soto, Trey Turner, I don't know who you have there.
yeah. They have. I think their lineup is going to be pretty decent. I don't know if it'll match the firepower of the other three teams, though. Definitely don't think so. But Juan Soto, man, the guy's special. He may be the best pure hitter right now in baseball, especially if he continues to play the way he's been playing. But I don't know if the team in general has enough firepower to compete with the Mets, Phillies, and Braves.
Yeah, because I tell you, I know they picked up Kyle Schwarber, right? And
Yeah,
I think the jury's out on Schwarber, right? When he came into the league with the Cubs, he seemed like he was on the fast track to the Hall of Fame, but
especially with
he's
that playoff run he had. He came back
sure.
from the injury and
Yeah.
was raking and all that stuff. Yeah,
Yeah. He just seemed like a natural born hitter
yeah.
who would just rake, for years to come. But he has some holes in his swing. And so I don't know. And I think this is almost a make or break year for Schwarber, a year to kind of rehabilitate himself. And then they have the Nationals have Josh Bell, right? And so we'll see what that does, if that helps. But I don't know. I think they're getting old in the rotation, though, right? With
Yeah, I think I saw today that their youngest pitcher is 27, I believe, Joe Ross,
yeah,
and he's their youngest rotation guy. Because
yeah, and so
Scherzer's up there, everyone else is in their mid 30s almost now. Even
yeah,
Strasburg feels like he came into the league yesterday. He's already he's in his 30s, 32, I think he is.
right. So I don't know. I think they're a little thin overall, but I tend to agree with you. I like the Braves in this division. Um, I think they're the team to beat. And I would like to see my Mets come away with second place in a wild card. But it's going to be a fun ride in the NL East, I think. I think it's going to be very, very competitive top to bottom.
Yeah, I agree. Even like I said, even the Marlins, they won't make the playoffs, but they'll make some noise. They'll give headaches to a lot of people this year.
Okay, so you started in the NL East, so I guess you're going to go to the NL Central, and I guess you have to talk about the St. Louis Cardinals, and everybody should know how I feel about the Cardinals, man. But
Man, well, I got them winning the division.
oh my gosh.
Man, I think that division, we're talking about the NL East being one of their most competitive. This division, I don't know. I mean, the Brewers always surprise you because when you think they're not going to be good, they suddenly become good, and they got a couple good bats. I don't know if they're going to surprise us at the end of the season. I don't think they have enough. We have to see what the Cubs can give us. The Reds, I think, have regressed. The Pirates are the Pirates, but I think St. Louis has the best chance. They got Nolan Arenado now at third base. That adds to the offensive power. Great defense, obviously, as well. That's a team that I think they're going to run away with this division. I don't think it's going to be close.
And I don't know if this is because I don't particularly care for the Cardinals, but no, really, because I think Milwaukee Milwaukee is either going to be very good or very bad. I
Yeah,
don't think they're going to be in between. And I believe that if they get good pitching, I think they might surprise because I think Milwaukee probably is defensively one of the better teams out there, right?
yeah. Their outfield is pretty.
Yeah.
It's a strength.
Yeah, so I think that's going to, right? Because they got Jackie Bradley, Lorenzo Cain, and Christian Yelich,
Yeah,
right? And then they picked up Colton Wong to play second. And, you just wonder if they can pick it that they could, maybe help their starting rotation out and their pitching staff generally out a lot.
yeah,
Um, so I don't know. I mean, but I think that either Rob are going to be very good or they're going to be irrelevant.
yeah. I mean,
And
the back end of their bullpen is good. Devon Williams, kid who came on the scene last year, the dude is nasty. I saw some of his pitching in spring training too. The movement on his pitches, he throws this changeup, I think it is. It just drops. The bottom just drops out, and then he throws mid-90s fastball, completely throws hitters off balance. I think, and he's only going to improve this year, hopefully. And then Josh Hader at the end. So the back end of the bullpen is legit.
well, and right, and I agree with that, and that's why I think they're an intriguing team in a way. Not intriguing like they're going to be dominant or anything like that,
Yeah,
but I think until if and until they show themselves that they're not going to be competitive, I think it would be it would be a mistake for St. Louis to sleep on Milwaukee. Let's see how the season plays out, but I think they might have an opportunity to be a sleeper here. But one last thing I'd like to say about this division before we go to the NL West: how close, in your opinion, are the Cubs to being in total rebuild mode?
I think they're closer than people think. They've had the issues with Chris Bryant over the last couple of years with his contract. Baez is a free agent after this year. And then I just saw today that Anthony Rizzo has cut off extension talks with the organization. So their core group of players is coming up on free agency. You would assume they're not going to retain all of them. So I think they're much closer to a rebuild than people think. And I don't know if they'll do a full-blown rebuild, just kind of start from the bottom and bring it back up again, or if they're going to try to kind of do almost like what the Yankees did a few years ago, which is stay somewhat competitive, have a couple pieces in place, still make some noise, be okay, but not have the expectation that you're going to make noise in the playoffs kind of thing. But I think the Cubs are a lot closer to kind of dismantling what we've known as the Cubs from that World Series, even a couple years before the World Series, to what they're going to be as soon as next year. Maybe even the trade deadline. Depends where they are, I think, in the division. If they're falling behind third place, fourth place, and we're getting close to the trade deadline, that's a team to watch out for, that sellers.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, because you mentioned Baez being a free agent. Bryant is going to be a free agent as well, and if the Rizzo talks don't reignite, he's going to be a free agent too, right? And
Yeah.
I have to believe Chris Bryant is gone
Oh yeah.
because
100%.
they've been dangling him in trade rumors and all the rest of it. So I think mentally he's already probably out of town. And Baez, I think he probably would like to be out of town too, because I don't believe he wants to be part of a rebuild. He seems to me to be a guy with that swag. He likes the spotlight. He likes to be able to play in meaningful games like most players do.
Yeah.
And I don't believe he would want to hang around either. But Baez has to, rehabilitate himself too. He had a rough 2020, and so he has to come back, and he has something to play for, obviously, with the looming free agency. But I asked that question of you because I believe the Cubs are very, very close to being in total rebuild mode, and it's kind of amazing given just how recently they were one of the more dominant teams in baseball.
Yeah, and it's crazy how fast, almost how fast life comes at you as a team. You have all these young pieces in place, and next thing you know, they got their World Series out of it, which is good for the team, good for the city. But it's coming up, man, and their pitching too is questionable. They let John Lester walk. I know he's a little older, but he was a leader for that team. Never mind the pitching side, he's a leader for the team. They let him walk. We got to see what's going to happen with Hendricks. He was being dangled this offseason in trade rumors too. So I agree. They're very close to no longer being the competitive Cubs. We'll call them.
Yeah, I took a look at their rotation, Rob, and Kyle Hendricks, Zach Davies, Trevor Williams, and Jake Arrieta.
Yeah.
Not exactly putting fear.
Yeah, and this isn't
you
Jake
know,
Arrieta from
no,
a few years back. Yeah.
no. So I look at the Cubs and I think it could be an ugly season in Wrigley this year.
At least the fans will be forgiving of them because they got them the World Series after 100+ years.
Sure,
So
sure.
I guess
Yeah, but it is just really startling to see how quickly their fortunes have changed. Let's go out west. Where do we need to talk about anybody other than the Dodgers and Padres? Do you see anybody else out there doing anything?
Not really. No. I mean, the Giants are going to be okay. I think they're going to run around 500 for most of the season. Other than that, the Rockies they'll probably trade Trevor Story at the trade deadline because they're probably going to let him walk after the season if they don't trade him. Diamondbacks, they are who they are. But the Padres, they made all these moves. They're coming for the Dodgers. And listen, the Dodgers said, okay, so we'll get Trevor Bauer, shore up this rotation. They got David Price back, who I think is a piece that's not talked about. We don't know what he's going to give innings-wise because he missed the season last year, but I don't think enough people give credit to David Price. He's still a really good pitcher. He's not an ace, but he's a solid 3, maybe even 4 in that Dodgers rotation. And I think he's going to be, a key piece for them. And I think the Dodgers will take the division. I don't think the Padres have enough, even with their moves and, their rotation being what they are and their offense being what it is with Tatis Jr. and Machado and all those guys. But this is going to be an exciting division to see these two teams go at it for as many games as they play against each other this year.
Yeah, and there's a part of me that believes that now that the Dodgers have won the World Series, they've gotten that proverbial monkey off their back. And it could be that a relaxed Dodgers team will be the most dangerous thing we've seen because
Yep.
they're not playing with that World Series or bust mentality because they've come so close in years past. They got knocked out of the postseason before the World Series. They get to the World Series and then they lose. And so they like, okay, the Dodgers have to win this year. Weren't we saying that last year, right? We said that for a couple
Yep.
of years. They have to win this year. Well, they won last year. And I believe that has to be a collective sigh of relief for them that might allow them to go out there and play baseball in a very, loose fashion where their talent, which has always been among the best in the league, can really thrive. And if that happens, man, the Dodgers may
Watch out.
be right. They may be really, really scary.
Yeah, and you saying that kind of reminded me, and it pains me to say this. The Red Sox, back when they won their first World Series in 2004, where after that they've just been, with the exception of a couple of years here and there, they've been a very dominant team since then. And I think the Dodgers are, as great as they have been, we may not have seen the best version of them yet. And now, like you said, Dave Roberts, he finally got that ring. No more pressure of he's on the hot seat. None of that stuff is going on this year. So I don't know, man. This team may show us the best version. And the way they played in the playoffs too, that we mentioned earlier, they came back against the Braves. They beat the Rays, who were the best team in the AL record-wise last year. So it wasn't like they just kind of walked through the playoffs and just, destroyed everyone. They had to work and earn it, and they did. And, man, that could be a scary team out there.
Yeah, they really can. So, but yeah, the Dodgers and Padres seem to, be the two teams that bear watching in the NL West, and the rivalry should be interesting. But I think the Dodgers right now have to be viewed as the favorites out there.
Yeah, easily. They have to be.
Well, that's it for part 1 of the 2021 MLB preview on Sports 360. Be sure to join us for part 2.